Hello, everyone. Welcome back to NFL Weekly Picks with B-Buck and your man Tom Ria Sports Picks. Guys, it is time for the NFL Playoff Conference Championships of the 2024 season in the 2025 year of the playoffs. All right, guys, we are looking at the final four teams, Commanders, Eagles, and then Bills, Chiefs. Who's going to go to the Super Bowl to represent their conference? We have a total of 6 total picks this entire week, so we got to make every single one count. And guys, this will be the last week that we track so-and-so of such and such picks in the point spread, over, under, and money line, because guess what? Next time we do these picks, skipping the Pro Bowl, it's just going to be one game, and we're going to decide who wins, and we will most definitely be doing a Super Bowl pick for you guys. We're looking very forward to it. So I got marked over here how many we got correct out of 2 picks for the point spread, the over-under, and the money line. 6 total picks for the conference championship game, which is this upcoming weekend. We're recording this on Thursday night, so odds might change, point spreads might change, totals might change, injuries could happen, so please keep that in mind and stay up to date. Mr. Tom, how you been, brother? You excited for this week's games?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Last week was crazy, to say the least, and obviously we'll get into last week's game, but it's also, also kind of sad. We're coming towards the end of the season. I'm definitely going to miss it, but this is the best time for football, right? Best time of the year, so let's just enjoy it while we got it, and let's see how it ends up.
Yeah, man, I feel you. I feel the exact same way, and I'm sure all of our viewers and all football fans around the world feel the same way. Unless their team's in it, then they're jumping for joy. All right, guys, like we usually start, before we get into this week's conference championship games picks, let's go over last week's recap of the divisional round. It's been a weird playoffs, guys. I'm sure it is every year. We have a few underdog wins, a few favorites not covering the spread and whatnot. I did 8 of 12. Guys, I'm very proud. I got all money lines correct. So I don't know if I've even done that all year. I know it's only 4 games, but nevertheless, very cool. And I only got 1 of 4 over-under picks right. But I did want to talk about this, Tom. I don't know if you noticed, and the viewers, in the Bills-Ravens game, when we made our picks on Thursday night, the line was at 51.5. It closed at 52 or 53. I actually think it might have been 52.5 or 53, and the game ended at 52. So we had the under, which would have hit if we would have placed, our picks on right before the game. But obviously we did Thursday night before the weekend. So that was a tough beat right there. Nevertheless, moving on, we take a licking, but we keep on ticking. And I got 3 of 4 on the point spread, right? Wow. Usually I don't do too good of those, but I kind of got lucky because I took the point spread with the underdog picks that I took, and they both came through for me. Tom Marie over here, 5 of 12 total right. It's all right. It's all right. You know why? Because you got 2 of 4 on the point spreads right, the ones that counted, the ones that actually played out the way they should have played out. We got 2 of 4 on the point spread, 2 of 4 on the money lines, only because we had a huge shocker in the Commanders-Lions game, which I'm sure the entire country was thinking of. And then the Ravens-Bills game, you know what, man? And I'm curious to hear what you think about this, too. Even if I say 50% Mark Andrews' fault with that drop ball on the last play of the game, there's a lot of factors that go into losing a 11-on-11 type sport. You know what I mean? With a 52-man roster. Like Lamar Jackson's boneheaded fumble kind of comes to mind for me. The defense not stepping up when they had to. So, they take it easy on Mark Andrews. He's helped your team a lot in the past, so let's not forget that as well. And then 1 of 4 in the over-under, the same as me, even though I don't know if we had exactly the same over-under picks. So weird week for the point totals, guys. Nevertheless, not a bad week. We made it through the divisional round. And guys, we're going to get into it after we do our picks for this week. But even though the picks might not have been perfect, I'll tell you one thing that is still very good. When the playoffs started, we picked 2 teams from each conference and an underdog team to go to the Super Bowl, how they could make it and how confident we are in them. Mr. Tom So it's 3 of his 5, like not including the underdog, 3 of his 4 teams picked to go to the Super Bowl are still remaining in the playoffs as we speak, and there's only 4 teams left. And then me, I got the Bills and the Eagles, so 2 of my 4 teams are still in it. Real quick, guys, we're going to get into that more in depth, but for whatever it's worth, we both might have different opinions on things, but take what you can from both of us and then add it into how you feel into stuff. And you wouldn't be you're not in a bad shape right now, as if you're like into futures, you know what I mean, or if like, oh hey, I told my friend so and so could beat such and such and go to the conference championship game or the Super Bowl. Bro, three of his 4 teams that he picked 2 weeks ago are still in it. That's amazing. You show me a pro or an ESPN commentator who's doing that. And then same over here. I got Bills Eagles going to the Super Bowl. That's still a possibility. So guys, I'm still pretty proud with our picks and our choices and performance this year.
Yeah, I think there are a couple things to highlight. Like last week, definitely you had a pretty decent week. 8 out of 12's not bad. Obviously, I shit the bed last week. I won't hide from it, but a couple things. The season's been good overall, and I like what you said. Like you take what you get, and then you add your own spin to it, right? And you make your picks based off of it. But either way, right? Like kind of trust your gut, no matter what it is, whether you agree, disagree, or indifferent. Always trust your gut. And I look back at last week just to cover that quickly, then we'll get into this week's picks. I know Chiefs game when we did it was 8.5, so I know I hit that. But I think that was probably the only under that I had in that game or last weekend. But a lot of those games, I think the one thing that I know I mentioned to you last week, and it came true, and it was like kind of crazy watching it live, is I picked the Ravens, and I picked the under in that game. And if you remember, my rationale for it was I felt the Ravens were a better team overall, and I felt the only way they were going to lose the game is if they made mistakes. And what happened, right? Lamar Jackson fumbled through a pick. Mark Andrews fumbled, drops the ball in the end zone to tie the 2-point conversion, right? Like, they shot themselves in the foot. And I like what we said about Andrews, great dude, did so much for the team, and like you don't want the fans to come down on him super hard and stuff, and I get that. But the reality is they fall down 21-10 because of turnovers in the first half. They play much better in the second half, have a chance to get to overtime, and they just kept shooting themselves in the foot. And that's exactly how I felt they were going to lose the game. Otherwise, they don't do that. They clean up the mistakes. They don't have the fumble. They don't have the pick. They don't have the other fumble. Like, they're winning that game, right? And I'm happy for the Bills, so I'm not complaining. I'm happy for them. I hope they win it all. That's my favorite team left. I'm really rooting for them. But, I felt like when you go back and watch the video, especially like what we talked about, the picks weren't the best, but I think the analysis was spot on, right? And a lot of like the way we were going about it and our thought process behind it was pretty accurate for the most part, other than the Lions Commanders for me. And you deserve a ton of credit, bro. You crushed that. That might have been one of your best picks of the year. You were all in on the Commanders. I mean, you had them at Tampa and surprised me, but when you picked them versus Detroit last week, oh man, I almost fell down. I couldn't believe it. And then now looking back, it's funny that you hindsight's 20/20, but now it just you look back on it, it's like, first off, Commanders. Well, you picked them because they were hot, right? You're like, hey, they're hot. They just give me like Team of Destiny kind of vibes, and like I'm going with them. I'm riding the hot hand. And also the other thing too is, dude, the Lions are depleted, right? Defensively, they have lost so many players, and they just couldn't stop them. They couldn't stop a nosebleed, and we had seen that a couple times this year where they couldn't stop it. I thought they were starting to shirk things up. Anzalone came back. They looked great versus Minnesota. Then again, who the fuck is Minnesota at this point, right? So that one was a major, major shocker. And I don't want to go too crazy into last week's games. I know everyone wants to hear about this week, but that game, to me, really, really shocked me in the moment. Afterwards, now, a few days have gone by, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Commanders were hot. They had nothing to lose. Lions had a lot of pressure. They got down early in the second quarter and then just never recovered, honestly. And Goff, we've seen these type of games out of him too, right? He had that game versus the Texans earlier this year where I think he had 5 interceptions or something, and they still ended up winning somehow. But I feel for Lions fans. That's got to be as devastating of a loss as a team can have.
Yeah,
literally. I mean, Dan Campbell said it himself. Like, they may never be back in this position again, right? Like, number 1 seed, in the whole NFL. 15 wins, or I think the whole NFL. Either way, number one seed in the NFC. 15 wins. I mean, tough to replicate that. And now they lose both coordinators. They don't even win a playoff game. They won as many playoff games as the Giants did this year. You know,
oh, that's salt in the wounds right there.
Yeah. Excuse me. I just feel bad for them, honestly.
Me too.
If you watch back my video last week, I was super high on them. I picked them to win the Super Bowl. It's crazy that they're not even making the conference title game, but just wanted to make sure more than anything out of this, you got your props for that Commanders pick last week, because like you said, I think America was picking the Lions, and very few people had the Commanders winning. I'm sure people had them covering, but you had them winning, which is even more impressive. So credit to you, man, and just want to give you your props on that before we go into this week's games.
Oh, bro, that coming from you, that means the world, bro. And you know what, bro? I really do appreciate the praise. It felt good. At the same time, I texted you after the game, and I want to say it on this video as well. My heart goes out to Dan Campbell, Coach of the Year in my opinion, and the Detroit Lions for an incredible season, because, guys, if you've watched our videos, we've been picking the Lions all year, had high faith in them. It's a shame that one of the greatest offenses we've seen in recent times, and could get better and still stay the same, just, had such a vulnerable defense. And, the Commanders kind of caught them off guard for whatever. Maybe things could change, but that's the beauty of the NFL playoffs, and NFL in general. It's just one game for the playoffs. But I'm not going to ramble on with it. I do feel really bad for the Lions. They're an amazing team. I hope they come back strong again next year, because they got the pieces. They're easy team to root for. You know what I mean? They're an old franchise that is due its flowers and props. And what was the other one before that? Oh, well, I did want to say this too real quick, guys, before we go into the picks. And when I say this, Tom, don't let it change anything about how you were going to pick these games this week. Guys, I've done it a little bit back and forth throughout the year, and I've done it a lot after the wild card weekend of playoffs. All right, so the regular season, I'm just kind of going off like matchups, stats, teams, how they've played other teams similar in the past, weather conditions, where they're playing, all that. And it's done us justice. When the playoffs come around, it's just one game. I feel like it's almost an even playing field, believe it or not, for a lot of teams, whether they're big favorites, how good of a season they had. That was really, and I think I said it in the video too, that was the only reason I picked the Commanders to beat the Lions. I was like, oh, they're coming off a big win with nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Coming up against a not too great defense. That was it. There was no magic ball or nothing like that for the Jaden Daniels over Goff, or the cornerbacks of the Commanders versus the cornerbacks of the Lions. No. I've gotten many picks wrong in the playoffs, and I've gotten some right. With that said, my whole point of this rant, guys, is I feel like Tom has incredible insight and research in his picks, and he's the man for that, because two heads are better than one. That's why I love us doing this video. And every now and then, I'll just kind of like not even look at the teams, look at the rosters, just kind of like make a pick. You know what I mean? Off a whim. I'll just make a pick, and sometimes it does us justice. So what do I mean by that, guys? Is what we said before was sometimes it's in equal parts of strategy, research, luck, and going with your heart. I've been into picking sports and gambling for whatever it's worth for a while now, and I truly do think those four things all need to be on point, or at least even for you to have success. Exactly. Yeah. For you to have success. And it's tougher than it looks, you know what I mean? The cards don't always come out the way you want. The dice don't always roll the way you want them. Sometimes they do, and it's helped both of us in a lot of certain situations. But guys, with that said, Tom, you ready to get into the second most important week of picks that we've ever done the whole year?
I'm ready, but I gotta give you the floor first, because it's your pick, it's your squad that's here, the first game of the weekend. So
I'm
going to give you the floor. I want to hear you. I want to hear what you got in mind with the team that you've been riding with that most people have.
Oh man. All right, I like it. I like it, bro. All right, guys. 2024/25 Conference Championship game starts this Sunday, January 26th, with the NFC Conference Championship game. Mind you, when did we stop saying conference games? Now they just say AFC and NFC Championship game. Hell no, we got to keep some old tradition. This is called the AFC and NFC Conference Championship games. It just sounds right to me. At 3 p.m., it's the NFC one with the visiting Washington Commanders going to the dangerous and rowdy Philadelphia Eagles, division rivals, guys, in the NFC Championship game. Very interesting, very cool if you're a fan of either of those teams. All right, guys, real quick, I do want to say, you see the line as it is now, +6, -6. I jotted down that earlier in the week, the line on Sunday night at 9:44 p.m. was Washington +4, Eagles -6. Now you see it today is +6, -6 on Thursday night. It was over under 48. Now it's at 47.5. And a slight bit of money, rightfully so, has been going in on the Eagles. Because even though the money line hasn't really changed, guys, or the over-under, this line spread is a little worrying to me. Because when it opened, I texted Tom, I said, a lot of respect going to the Commanders, and rightfully so. You know, -4, that's basically a pick 'em. You know what I mean? Going up against the powerhouse Eagles. So now that the line is -6 and getting 6 for the Commanders on the road, as hot as they've both been, I don't think weather's going to be too much of a factor this week. I could be wrong. I got to double check on it. I know it could change, but there was a little bit of snow in the second half of last week's game. I don't think we have to worry about that this week. As far as my picks for this game, guys, I picked the Eagles and the Bills to go to the Super Bowl. That was my feeling come wild card week. Now that it's two of the teams who I was very fond of and versing each other to go to the Super Bowl, and the Eagles is one of them, it's kind of hard for me to pick against the Eagles. So, Commanders fans, I've been riding with you the entire playoffs. I hope whatever luck I've brought you was worth it. But I think this is a really tough spot for you guys. The Eagles should win this one. I'm going to try and go with like a smarter tactic this week as far as picks. Commanders could 100% beat them. So guess what, guys? I'm also going to give the Commanders the +6. I love that it went from +4 to +6 because I can see the Commanders winning this game many different ways. I can just kind of see the Eagles winning it slightly more ways, and it's more likely that the Eagles can pull this one out. Number 2 seed against the 6 seed. I think they both split the series in the regular season, so we're in for a really good game with this one. It's in Philly. That crowd's going to be rowdy, man, for the NFC Championship game. It's going to be a crazy game, guys. Both of them are very good. I like the Eagles to win in this spot. Why? I think we kind of saw what I said last week was when's Hurts and Barkley going to show up? And Barkley showed up big time, and it helped them. As far as the +6 for the Commanders, guys, what's left to say? Jaden Daniels is a wizard at QB, man. He can move that ball. They got a lot of good pieces. Terry McLaurin's amazing. Zach Ertz doing his part, ex-Eagle. Commanders defense actually kind of playing all right these playoffs. I like to see that. It would make my life and be crazy, like happy to see the underdog Commanders win because I'm a sucker for underdog stories. But I don't know. I feel like Eagles are a tough team to beat. They have been all year, and they just got to get one more done at home to go to the Super Bowl. As far as the over-under 47.5, I really like this over, guys. It started at 48. Now it's at 47.5. I know Eagles have a good defense. Commanders' defense played all right. And we got to keep in mind the weather conditions. But who are we fooling? We got Jaden Daniels, possible offensive player of the year, offensive rookie of the year, I should say, versus Jalen Hurts. You know, it's gonna be a shootout. It's gonna be a great divisional rival game, and I think this goes over 47.5. Mr. Tom, what do you have to say about this one?
Great stuff, brother. Great stuff.
Thank you.
And it's funny you're crediting me with the insight, but I thought I had awesome insight there. Well, I can make it short or make it long, so I'm going to do both. In short, I agree with everything you said. I'm riding in every single direction. I got Washington +6. I got Philly winning, and I got the over 47.5.
Wow.
I love what you mentioned about it going from 4 to 6. Probably tells us right that a lot of people early on were taking Washington at +4, and now the odds makers moved up to 6. Also on the flip side, with it going to 47.5, and it was originally what was it 48?
It's at 48,
49, right? So maybe perhaps a lot of people were taking the under, so now they're trying to get people to take the over. Either way, I'm with you on all fronts. I got the same picks as you do for this game. Now, I'm going to add my little splash of insight. So you referenced it quickly, right? These two teams played each other, obviously, twice because they're in the same division, which, as a Giants fan, couldn't think of a worse. Well, actually, the only worse NFC title game for me would be Dallas and Philly, so it's pretty damn close. But with that being said, I went back and looked at both games. So when they played in Washington at the end of the season, that was obviously an incredible game. Washington came all the way back, won 36-33, so very high scoring. And then when they played earlier in the year in Philly, Philly won. I want to say it was 26-18 or something like that. It was an 8-point spread. I know that they won by 8 points, and it was relatively low scoring. So what does that mean for this game? Not much, in my opinion. I think the only thing it means is that these teams are playing for a third time, and they have familiarity. But the reality is, other than the Commanders' crazy comeback the last time they played, Philly should have won both games, right? Like, truthfully, Philly should have won both games. I think Jalen Hurts got hurt in that Commanders game, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
One.
You're right.
So,
you're right. It wasn't. Yep.
I think he did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got hurt in that game, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, even if he didn't, I know they lost late. But, yeah, so my thinking behind it is similar to yours. I think when you got a guy in Jaden Daniels, you got an offense as hot as Washington's is. I know Philly's defense is much, much better than Detroit's, and especially at home. But I also think the factor of them already playing them a couple times, we're going to find out who it helps, who it hurts. But I'm going to lean on the edge of that it helps the offenses more than it helps the defenses. So that's one factor into it. I also worry about Washington's defense. Saquon notoriously has destroyed Washington, even when he was with the Giants and this year with Philly. So I'm expecting him to get 100-plus yards, 1 or 2 touchdowns for sure. So that's my reasoning for the over on this game. But I do think Washington has enough firepower to keep it relatively close. I just think at the very end of it, Philly's defense will get the stops when they need to, and they'll make enough plays on offense to win this game. But I do expect it to be tight. Wouldn't be shocked if we get ourselves a 30-27 type of game.
Wow.
And I know Washington plays well in close games, but I think their luck's going to run out. I do think so. Now, if you believe in luck, I know you said, you might have been giving Washington some good luck by picking them. And maybe I'm giving them good luck by picking against them. I've picked them to lose every game so far, and I'm picking them again to lose. So, Washington fans, it's probably music to your ears. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, that's kind of my rationale with this one. It should be a fun one. The weather, I did check it while you were talking. It's as of right now, we know it can change in a day's time, but as of right now, it's supposed to be just like mid-30s, a little bit cloudy. But I don't expect any snow to fall.
Nice.
But obviously that can change. So we'll see. But I think at the end of the day, man, it comes down to how well Hurts plays. Right? If he's not making mistakes, just managing the game, get the ball in Saquon's hands, play good defense, they'll definitely win. They might blow him out if they do all those things well. But if he's able to make enough plays and they're like Washington stays in the game, it could get very interesting, right? It could get very interesting. But ultimately, I do think Philly's going to win at home. Just tough to pick against them in that environment. So we're aligned, brother. We got all the same picks for the NFC game. Now, you want me to kick off the AFC one, or is there anything you want to add?
Dude, all I want to say was that was beautifully said. We just said a real mouthful within like 4 minutes of deep input on both of these teams for one game, against division rivals to go to the Super Bowl. Beautifully said. All right, man. Go right ahead. On the same day, guys, Sunday night, let's see who goes to the Super Bowl out of the AFC, the American Football Conference. Bills or the Chiefs? Bills are on the road at the Chiefs, right, Mr. Tom? I'm pretty sure.
Yes, yep, in Kansas City, yep.
Okay, man. Yeah, take the floor, Chief.
Yeah, so another, amazing game in my opinion. I mean, Washington and Philly can end up being amazing, but on paper, right, if last week's game Buffalo Baltimore wasn't game of the year. This might end up being game of the year, or one of them at least. So let's go back, right? These two teams played each other week 11, I believe. Bills won at home, 30-21, right? So a relatively high-scoring game. Chiefs' first loss, and kind of technically their only loss this year because the only other time they lost was Denver at the end of the season where they benched everybody. So what do you take from that game? I'm not really sure. I think, number one, it should give the Bills a little more confidence. But then again, they did the same thing last year, if I'm not mistaken, and then they lost to them at home in the playoffs, right? Now they're going back to Kansas City. They've obviously had nightmares against that team. And if they want to win the Super Bowl, they got to get this monkey off their back. They got to beat Mahomes. They got to beat the Chiefs. And they just haven't been able to do it. And it's been either because of kicker issues, and that's another thing to look out for in this game, right? Tyler Bass, how he performs. Also, even in the last game, real quick, Jake Elliott, how he performs, right? There's going to be some interesting kicker stuff this weekend, I feel it. I feel like may happen. But more specifically, to this game itself, the weather looks like it's going to be cold but clear. Don't think it really is going to affect either team too much. Two cold weather teams that are used to it, right? Buffalo and KC, which also makes it fun. But I think both defenses are better than they get credit for. Well, especially Buffalo's, the way they've played over the last month or so. So I think the first pick I want to make on this game is the under. I'm going to take that under 48.5. We'll see how it plays out, but I think it's going to end up being a little bit lower scoring game. Two teams that know each other well, two well-coached defenses. So I'm taking the under there. I think we're going to end up getting like drives that stall into field goals a good amount, right? That'll lead to less points. And then as far as the pick, man, my heart's saying one thing, my head's saying another thing.
Well, let's hear both. I'm curious to hear both. What's your heart and head say?
Yeah. My heart is Bills and my head is Chiefs. So
yep.
I think what I want to do is different than I normally do. Now, I'm going to be transparent with the viewers. I'm not betting on this game. I'm not putting any of my money towards it. So when you hear me make this pick, take it with a grain of salt. But ultimately, I'm going to take the Bills. I'm going to take them +2, and I'm going to take them money line. I just think this is finally the time they get it done. I think the Chiefs have been getting away with murder all year. They've been in these close games and winning by the skin of their teeth quite often. Even last week versus Houston wasn't super pretty. And I know people complained about some of the ref stuff, whatever, but they still found a way to win. They got it done. They got it done. But I think the reality with Buffalo, more than any team in the NFL, they know what it takes to, well, maybe other than the Bengals, right? Bengals have given the Chiefs quite a bit of problems. But more than them, or just almost as much as them, Buffalo knows what it takes to beat Kansas City. They just haven't done it yet,
yeah.
Right? They almost did it last year. They almost did it a few years back. Like, they've come so close so many times. And you just kind of wonder, is this going to be the time? Will it be the time? And I've picked against them in past years. But for some reason, I just feel like this is going to be the year they get it done. Their defense is coming along a little bit. They got Matt Milano playing now, and he's looked well. Epinesa, they got a lot of good guys, I think, on that defense that are capable of getting the stops when they need to. And I don't think they're scared at all to go into Arrowhead and shock the world. I think they're not going to be intimidated. I think they know what it takes. So I'm going to go with my heart, and we'll see. We might come back next week and joke about it, or the week after whenever we do our Super Bowl picks, but we may come back and be like, oh, you should have went with your head, not your heart. But
No.
I'm going with my heart, man. I'm taking, again, just to confirm if anyone missed it, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm taking Buffalo +2. I'm taking the under 48.5, and I'm taking Buffalo money line. Mr. Buck, what you got for us?
Does it say +2 on the screen you're looking at, or 1.5?
Let me see. I'm sorry, I was looking at the ESPN odds. My apologies. Yeah, so with the DraftKings odds, 1.5.
Okay.
Same idea, though.
Yeah, I was just
2.
curious. I was just saying, dude.
Yeah,
no.
So we'll do +1.5 as well. That's fine. No issue.
Real quick, just sneak it in there, real short. What would be your reasoning for the Chiefs winning if you had to do it off paper, like going off stats and shit?
Yeah. If I had to pick the Chiefs, or if I was going to go ahead and pick the Chiefs, one, this is a pick 'em essentially, this game, right? So you can go either way. That's as simple as it gets. But two, could just be more of a mental thing, right? Like they've beaten Buffalo so many times in the playoffs in the last few years.
It's a great point. Great point.
They've gotten better as the season's gone on. Their defense is elite. Their offense does just enough to win. And I think it just comes down to, do I think they are a better team on paper? Probably. I do think they are a little bit of a better roster. I mean, they have Hall of Famers and Mahomes and Kelsey and Chris Jones going to be a Hall of Famer,
That's
right?
a great
Like
point.
they've added a Hall of Fame coach, whereas like Buffalo doesn't have those things. They still have a good team, but I just think if you're going to pick Kansas City, those are the reasons why, right? Like overall, they're just a better team on paper, and they've proven it. I'm going with my heart in Buffalo, similar to what you did with Washington, where I just think that this is their time, and they recognize it, and they're kind of like, all right, like here's another great opportunity to beat a team that we're super familiar with. They probably should have got them last year, or almost could have, just fell short. Could have got them a few years ago. Definitely should have got them in that year when they went, that super high scoring game that went to overtime. If their defense didn't completely collapse, Buffalo would have won that game. So I just think eventually you knock on the door long enough, someone's going to answer, and I think this is the time the Bills answer. So that's my pick, brother. But I know we only got a little less than 10 minutes left, so let me hear your thoughts, what you got, and how you're feeling.
All right, man. All right, guys. For the Bills-Chiefs game, I do want to just say a couple of things before I start it. Is one, I heard that someone bet $1 million in Vegas recently on the Chiefs. I don't know if it's true. I saw it online, but I saw someone bet $1 million on the Chiefs recently. And every time I hear stuff like that, it kind of scares me because I feel like it's like, oh, it's always bad luck or bad, like whenever we hear about it before it happens. But we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs here, guys. The team that even TV shows are publicly joking about, like, oh, the refs help them and they've been the powerhouse of the NFL the last few years, 5-6 years, and they're going for the three-peat. I love that Tom picked the Bills because I remember him saying in either our last video or the video before that even though he picked the Chiefs to get to this point, and even if they go to the Super Bowl, some records aren't meant to be broken, and no NFL team has ever won 3 Super Bowls in a row, which is crazy. And you know what, guys? I think that stands, man. I think that stands, and I think we find out that answer this week because, all right, for the Bills, think about how good they've played this year and in these playoffs, and you've had the chance to take them as underdogs the last 2 weeks. Come on, guys. That's free money if you're actually putting money on these games. I love that you're getting the Bills as underdogs here. With that said, it is a pick'em. So on the other same exact story for the Chiefs. Chiefs, best record in the league. I don't know if they had a better record than the Lions when it was all said and done, but best record in the league, number 1 seed, and you can get them for basically even money. A little over it. So, guys, the only thing that scares me with that is every time the Chiefs are in these high-profile championship games, whether it be the conference or the Super Bowl, I feel like it's always a pick-em, and the Chiefs always come out on top of it because everyone's like, wow, I can either get great odds on the Chiefs or even greater odds on the team that should beat them, but the Chiefs end up pulling it out. So, guys, Chiefs, I'm giving you guys your own props. You had a great year, amazing team. You're amazing everything. Tom just said it best coach in the league, arguably. Even better, way better defense than the Bills. I think the Chiefs' defense has been slept on this playoffs, to tell you the truth. They played very well against the teams that they played. And then, but with that said, take all that for whatever it's worth to you. With that said, I'm sticking with who I picked to go to the Super Bowl already and who I picked when this game was decided after the Bills beat the Ravens and the Chiefs beat the Texans. I like the Bills in this spot, guys. I think the Bills get it done. The Bills should beat them. They look like a team on a mission this year. And what is that mission? The mission is beating Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, the team they probably knew all year that they were going to see in this spot. And like Tom said, how many times are you going to lose to him? Like, I know Allen's beat Mahomes a few times when they've met, whether it's regular season or playoffs in both of their careers. But I think the Bills are going to be angry and nasty coming into this game. And I hope it plays in their favor because I think the Bills can beat the Chiefs here, guys. Chiefs had the better defense. Bills are going to have to come with some great offensive game planning and play good defense of their own because the Chiefs are also going to be coming with new plays like I mentioned last week. Since I'm taking the Bills to win outright, I'm going to give them the 1.5 points. Only thing we differ with here, guys, is I like the over, even though it started at 48 earlier in the week and now it's 48.5. Only for the simple fact that it's just two of the greatest QBs in the league right now. So hopefully we get a nice shootout game, in both games, I should say. But as far as the Bills Chiefs, hopefully it's a high scoring, fun game. A lot of Chiefs games have gone under this year, guys, though. So keep that in mind. Check out that record if you don't believe me, and that's my picks for whatever they're worth.
Man, I'm just excited, but I'm glad you brought that point up too about the 3 years in a row, right? No team has ever won, and I actually just quickly went back and I was looking at some of the other teams that had the opportunity, right? That won 2 Super Bowls in a row, went for their third, and it's only happened 8 times. You had the Patriots, and they lost in the divisional round in 03 to 05. The Broncos in the late 90s. I think they actually just missed the playoffs in their third year that they went for because Elway retired, I want to say, after the second year. The Cowboys in the 90s, they ultimately lost. I believe they lost sometime in the playoffs. We had the Niners lose to the Giants in the conference championship game. Steelers actually had 2 opportunities, 74 through 76, and then 78 through 80. And then before them was the Dolphins and the Packers in the 70s and 60s. So all those teams, right, won 2 Super Bowls in a row and then had an opportunity to go win their third and never did it. And I just, even if the Chiefs win this week, I'm still probably going to pick against them.
Yeah.
I'm going to play maybe Washington.
I hear you.
But we'll see how I'm feeling. But I don't want to commit to that just yet. But either way, I just think this is where the buck stops. I think it was a great season for Kansas City, but similar to how you felt about Washington,
yes,
is why I feel about Buffalo. Is I just think they're rolling a little bit. Not even rolling. They played good in the first half last week, not great in the second half. But hopefully they learn from that. Hopefully they keep their foot on the gas early. And I think if they could just get one mistake by Kansas City, one interception, fumble, just a bad defensive play, like whatever it is, if they could just get Kansas City to make one mistake, which is hard, right? Which is why I'm a little worried and why my head is telling me Kansas City is going to win. Because you think if anyone's going to make the mistake, it's going to be the inexperienced, or not the inexperienced, but the lack of championship experience Bills. But every dog has its day.
Yes.
And I think today is, or Sunday I should say, is going to be the Bills' day. But that's it, man. I got nothing else to add to it. You guys heard our picks. And I guess quickly, if I'm going to do a confident pick.
Oh, yeah,
I know we got a minute left. My confident pick this week is going to be Buffalo plus 1.5 people.
Oh, okay. Oh, just one. Yeah, just one. Guys, I actually, for some reason, really, that's never worked out for me picking the over in the first game, but it's the one that sticks off the page for me. Over in the Commanders game. I think it goes over 47.5. How much time we have on yours?
About 45 seconds or so.
I do want to say, I'm going to find it for you on Instagram. Ready for something really crazy? Joe Burrow, when he went to the Super Bowl, was at LSU Heisman. They both had the same record, same everything as Jaden Daniels going to the Super Bowl. That was crazy, right?
Yeah, I think to sum it up, not to interject, but just so everyone understands, there's a lot of similarities, guys, you can look it up, between the Bengals in 2021 when they made their Super Bowl run and the Commanders right now. So if you don't know what I mean, Google it, look it up on Instagram, try to find it. But there's a lot of similarities between those teams. So if that factors or influences your pick, so be it, people.
Guys, love you all. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.